Well, thanks for coming in. And let's start with how we got here. It's only been a few weeks since you fired Karen Trujillo. That was a move that surprised legislators, educators, not just Republicans out for blood on this one, but some Democrats spoke up too and said they wanted to know more about why. What specifically happened there?
Well, I'm going to tell you that it's less for me about why, and it should be, I hope, less for your viewers and New Mexicans. It should be about what, right? I'm looking towards the best possible public education system in the country, and we have a long way to go. And it's a pretty big challenge, and I know that because I've run a department or two in my career, and it's tough, particularly when you're going to be that change agent. And I was looking for demonstrable efforts to really get our students engaged in the extended learning programs and to really begin to see the flexibility in meeting students' needs and closing those achievement gaps. And that strategy is tough, and I wanted more aligned there. And we have a parting of the ways, and I believe unequivocally I've got a secretary who can deliver in that regard because he's been doing that. And that's an issue for New Mexico. We don't provide to our educators that career development path. And so it's something that I think the state can actually do a much better job in. I need to invest in management, leadership, vision, and educational standards for our educators. And I think that'll make a difference in the long haul.
So it sounds like you were looking for an alignment of vision. She said that your office didn't communicate what was wrong effectively. Do you buy that?
I don't. And this is a disappointing issue and aspect for everyone. I mean, we work actually to mentor and support everyone. And if you'll remember early in our tenure as a brand new administration in identifying candidates to be cabinet secretaries, I think you might have even asked me, when can we expect a corrections secretary? And I said, well, we are doing our very best. We're looking for the right candidate, the best candidate. In the meantime, we have expertise in this office, and we aren't ignoring the corrections department. So we do weekly huddles with like cabinets and cabinet secretaries. We help them develop and deliver their budgets, their procurement, because remember that I, at least on the campaign trail and then reaffirmed after being elected, these are departments with huge vacancy rates who don't have the human resource expertise anymore because that was moved out of their departments. Sure. They can't do their budgets. So we've been doing that with these departments from the very first day. So January 3rd, after we're sworn in, we've been doing that, and we meet every single week, and every group and every department, including the education department, has a policy champion in our office.
You did keep all the deputies, and elevated Kara Bobroff to interim secretary for a little while. So it sounds like you're at least pleased with what's happening at that level.
Everyone that we identified has talent and expertise. I don't want anyone in New Mexico to think that we didn't identify candidates, including the former secretary, who have demonstrated in their own capacity in some way remarkable efforts. The deputy secretaries are exactly that group. You know, combined, they have nearly 100 years of education experience. But you have to have a person who can then lead, leverage, and support that group. And our new education secretary is someone who has the education, then has the experience, has middle school teaching expertise, and is now leading a regional nonprofit that actually gets things invested and changed inside schools. And that's the part that we've been missing. Can you take these evidence-based ideas like extended learning, and can you get them inside our current school system? And can you make that nimble enough that educators, parents, and students are part of that leadership change and the decision making about how it rolls out? And I think I know unequivocally that Ryan has that specific experience because we've never done that in New Mexico. We didn't have somebody here with that specific experience.
Okay, I promise I'm going to let you get to Ryan Stewart in
All right.
a second. Yazzie Martinez, I don't think that I've watched a TV report, read an article, written an article in the last, months since it's come out, that decision. that it hasn't been present in the discussion. What role, if any, did that play in your decision to remove Karen Trujillo and to go a different direction?
Look, the Yazzie Martinez is critical, and we have to meet the requirements in that court order. And for viewers who are unfamiliar, even though you just said it's reported all the time, New Mexico has a court order that unequivocally says that we are not meeting our public education constitutional requirements. And specifically, we are missing the mark in spades when it comes to our disadvantaged and minority students. So in a state that is still one of the most impoverished states in the country, a minority majority state with specific challenges in language, when you look at Native American communities, we have a great deal of work to do. And the moonshot investment was twofold by the legislature, $446 million, largest single investment into public education ever. It was meant to build and lead, but also meet the requirements in Yazzie Martinez. And here's what we know about Yazzie Martinez, and I talked a little bit about it, is we lose students over the summer months, right? That continuity with an educator, you can have 10 extended days, 25 extended days, that we need to do that so that we don't have students fall back and then start all over in the next grade, which then leads to our proficiency problems, which means we don't close those achievement gaps. And if you're a student that didn't get pre-K and didn't have quality childcare and you're behind when you start school, the issue is you don't ever catch up. All right, so we lose educational time in the summer, and you don't ever catch up. We can't do that even if we didn't have a court order anymore to any New Mexico student. So Yazzie Martinez is a great guidepost. It tells us unequivocally that we were underspending in education. It tells us where we were underspending, and now it's up to the public education department and the state and our partners, legislators, to develop the specifics. So we know the journey. How we get there is now up to the state to do with the partners of our schools, students, and parents.
Okay. I can't force you to tell us anything. Do you feel like the public knows enough about why you dismissed Karen Trujillo?
Well, here's the issue. I hope the public, and this is a great opportunity, my job is to make sure that I'm meeting the needs of students and educators. And if I do that, then I'm going to meet the requirements of Yazzie Martinez. I think that people should expect me to have the courage to be clear that the best leaders anywhere in the country should be identified. They can be from here, they can be from somewhere else. And you should expect that I will hold true to that commitment, irrespective, to make sure that we leave no stone unturned to be successful. These are really tough jobs, and people should not underestimate just how hard they are. And we should thank every person who was willing to take that risk. It's a big risk to come out of the private sector or the public sector in a job that you were successful at and try to take this on. And look, we are dealing with 86 independent school districts, just under 900 schools, right? Moving that agenda with those stakeholders and independent school boards is hard work. There's nothing about our last appointments, including the current deputies, that shouldn't reflect that we were clear about that hard work, and so were they, and that everyone is doing their very best. And if it's not enough, it is my job to make the determination to try something different. And that's exactly what I did. So there isn't any specific issue, right? It is, I just know we need more, and I intend to do everything in my power to make the grade in public education on behalf of New Mexico, and that's my job.
It doesn't sound like it's a hire you regret.
No. Look, I think New Mexicans are incredible. I'm a New Mexican. I get to be the governor. But it is clear that sometimes we don't have the right professional development. And we actually, in that $446 million, we got professional development. And it's an issue we've been debating. So if you're an effective manager, you're a terrific principal. But were you an effective educator in the classroom? Just because I understand some of the educational investments and reforms doesn't translate that I would be an effective educator in the classroom. So we need training and investment so that you can do the classroom work. Then we need professional development so that you can do additional educational efforts. So if it's STEM or STEAM or something beyond that, that you can do that as well. Then you ought to get management and leadership training and vision. And we don't do that here. And in fact, the truth is, over the last 8 years, so nearly a decade, we stopped providing any of those resources whatsoever. You know what we did do is we made classroom sizes bigger. More students, less pay for educators, less support. I'm dedicated to making sure that the talent in New Mexico gets the opportunity to direct their careers in a number of ways because we're going to pay for that professional development.
You've found, as you mentioned, a new secretary, Ryan Stewart. He's, as we do this interview, making the rounds. What did you see in his experience that led you to choose him?
One thing he did in particular is that most candidates talk to us about the big school districts and how we're going to move the needle there, and we have to. APS, Albuquerque Public Schools, I mean, we're in the second day of school this week. Students went back to school, biggest school district in the state. A lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities. And so he identified the specific strategies for this school district and how he would support those, including knowing who each of the policymakers, who all the school board presidents are, when their elections are, what kinds of strategies and education and professional development in the classroom will make the difference, how you communicate to parents and students. But he also did it in Mosquero. So he gave us a roadmap for every single community, every single school district, how many hours of effort that would take, how you realign the public education department, what his expectations are from my office, from Children, Youth, and Families, from the Department of Health, who does school-based health centers, from the universities, who have to be part of that professional educational development. Soup to nuts. He had a plan for all of it and then demonstrated how he used similar plans, but we have to have one unique to New Mexico in other school districts and in other states like Pennsylvania that are making the differences there that we know can make a difference here. I was very impressed by that short and long range vision by our new secretary.
You're intimately familiar with all the rankings and test scores and rates. How do you sell that to someone who you're like, I'm pretty sure this is my person. Here's what you're dealing with. We've had a rough go of it. We want to move forward. How do you sell that?
Well, two things, and that's a really valuable question because, and I don't want to, I want New Mexicans to want to be public servants, but we get a lot of folks who are very interested in a position and come to us and, say, I think I can do it, I just want to try, but don't realize the risks and don't realize what's really at stake in these jobs. And I'm going to get to Ryan in a minute. I'm going to use another cabinet secretary that I recruited, Brian Blaylock from California. And he came here from San Francisco ready to tell me no.
Over at CYFD.
Right, over at CYFD. There's no way that governor can recruit me to go into the worst state in the country for child well-being without the resources, the tenacity, and the support to really turn it around. It's just, that's too hard. And I basically talked about when you do this work anywhere in the country, what you want is an entire state that wants to make a difference with the resources and the leadership that will support you to make those differences. If you're really in public service, you just want to make that difference. And I made that case to Ryan Stewart. You're doing a great job where you are. You're in fact focused on innovation, development, and investment, closing achievement gaps for underserved, hard to serve English language learners as a second language in the classroom. You're doing that. How would you like to turn that around for one of the most diverse states in the country, one of the poorest states in the country, for policymakers who are willing to give you a moonshot, so that every time you identify a strategy or resource, we will do everything in our power to get it to you? What kind of an environment is that to get to work in? And it's an incredibly exciting environment. You want to know that the things that you work in are a priority for your governor and for your legislature and your stakeholders. That's why I stayed as the aging secretary for 3 governors. They committed to me that aging would be a priority.
those classes that you described, the English language learners, that's all Yazzie language too. And I heard that in his Monday announcement, some words or phrases that sort of paralleled with Yazzie. Do you feel like he's positioned to respond quickly to that? And now that you have sort of the first infusion, this is a two-parter,
Yep.
and now that you have sort of the first infusion of the moonshot, what does the second part look like?
So we need to be assessing what the second part looks like. So there's no question that advocates, and they should, and other stakeholders are beginning to look at the second round of investments. And I want to be cautious, not that I don't think we don't need any more financial resources. You know, we still have educators, we have teachers' assistants, you know, that are making $14,000 and $18,000 a year, right? And these educational assistants are largely in classrooms where we have disadvantaged and disability students. If we don't have sufficient numbers of them and there isn't sufficient professional development, and if nobody can afford to do that vocation, then we don't have the resources and tools in the classroom, A, to meet the court order, and B, more importantly, to make a difference for those students. So we're going to need more resources. But I want to give you another resource example and tell you then we're going to be assessing, and we did the sort of, it's still PARC, but it's a less time, less intense, a more flexible component, as right now we're looking for a new accountability standard so that we know where our students are, where our educators are, and where they need to go. But in our extended learning, which we know will make a difference, look, we could only spend a third of it, a little more than that, up front because schools weren't ready. Right? We don't have that money available until July. We don't know what we're getting until the end of the legislative session, which really for most folks is April. So the session ends at the end of March, and then we've got 20 days. So, but nobody really knows just exactly what those budgets are going to look like. Plus, you have to give families and those educators more than a few months' notice when they've taken other jobs that we want them to stay in the classroom. So we're going to be spending the balance of that extended learning in the 2020 part of the school year, a part of that summer for extended learning. So legislators are going to want to know from us, what do the accountability measures look like while they're in the session next February and March. Then the court is going to want to know that same information. We're likely to, in advance of that, talk about professional development money, supplies money. You know, the average parent and grandparent is spending $250 a student in the poorest state in the country. We need more money for community schools, right? We only got a couple of million. We know that that design works for a state like ours. Well, $2 million is not enough to transform every school into a community school in the state. And then the specific accountability measures, professional development measures, pre-K curriculum, and the extended learning. Well, we need more data in order to tell us where we need resources to make sure that every student is getting what they need.
It's no small job.
It is no small job, and we're going to do it. This is exciting. And I know that there's a trauma when you feel all of these investments and you've got all of these folks who are dedicating their careers to making a difference, and there is a shift. So I think about it, I'm going up a hill, and I was in fourth gear, and I needed to shift back down to third. I'm going to get up that hill. I need to keep my speed and my momentum, but I need to make sure that I'm in the right gear as I continue to move forward. And that's what we did in education. We just changed gears. Not plans, not direction, not efforts, not enthusiasm. We have the expertise that we need, and I'm really excited about where we go from here.
We'll be along for the ride. Thanks
Terrific.
for your time.
You got it, Matt. Thank you.
You bet.